Hey, what's going on, y'all? So right now, the solar industry is booming and there's a ton of money to be made for door-to-door sales reps, but it's really important that you choose to work with the right company because assuming that you work hard and you're coachable, the company that you choose to work with will really be the biggest difference on whether or not you make the life-changing money or don't have a good time. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how good of a salesperson you are or how many contracts you get signed. If panels aren't actually getting installed, you aren't going to be making any money. So that's something that's really important to know about before you get into solar sales. But luckily, there are a ton of solar companies out there right now, which gives you options on who you work with. And it also gives you leverage on negotiating the actual position that you accept. My name is Connor, by the way, and on this channel, I talk about entrepreneurship. So if you haven't already subscribed, go ahead and do that right now. Last summer, I got into solar sales and I made around $37,000 in my first 2 months. I made a video about my experience, so if you haven't seen it yet, I'm gonna put a link to it right up here so you can go ahead and check that one out next. I'm gonna go over what you need to consider before accepting a solar sales position, what the different types of sales positions are out there for selling solar panels, also what the top companies are, and how you can actually go out there right now. I'm gonna give you some actionable steps to be sure that you can find the best sales position in your area. Then I'll finish the video touching back on what my experience was like last year, why the first few months were absolutely amazing, but then after that, it went downhill pretty quickly. I'm gonna go over what a few of the red flags were. The first thing you need to consider is what are your short and long-term goals? Are you looking to make some quick cash over the next couple of months, or are you actually looking to grow with the company over the next several years? For example, a Sunrun, part of their compensation plans will include stock options. So obviously, if you're in this for the long haul, that can make a lot of sense. After that, the next most important thing is how long does it take the company to install the solar system? Because it may not be ethical to pressure somebody into signing a contract, then installing only the racks the very next day. With that being said, if it takes the company 12 months or even 6 months to install the system, that's a long time right there. That's a long time for somebody else to come around and undercut you on price. And just a lot can happen in that amount of time. Maybe the homeowner gets a new job and wants to move and they cancel the contract. In that case, all of your hard work that you put in finding that client, it's almost for nothing because you aren't going to be getting paid off of that client. Next is company reputation. This one isn't as important because just about every single company out there, you'll be able to find bad reviews about them online. And most of the top solar companies have a 3 out of 5 star rating on the Better Business Bureau. And some customers will look that up if you're presenting to them in the home, and they'll bring that up to you. The thing is though, is they didn't look at your competition. And most of your competition have a much worse reputation. I mean, if you even look at companies like Amazon and Apple on the Better Business Bureau, they have like a 1 out of 5 star review. So that should tell you something right there. It is something to consider, but it's not the biggest deal. Obviously, commission structure is really important. However, again, it's not the most important thing because at the end of the day, if the panels aren't getting installed, you won't be making anything. But when you are talking to the companies, be sure to understand what the price per watt is that you'll be able to sell at. I know some companies also do offer a fixed commission, which a lot of people do like that. And as I mentioned earlier, companies like Sunrun will even offer stock options. You also want to ask about territory as well. Some companies will allow you to go sell anywhere and in multiple states, when other companies will keep you confined to a specific neighborhood or maybe a part of the city. Sometimes they'll have you running around hundreds of miles to cover a whole region, which there definitely can be benefits to that. Obviously the more area you have, the more opportunity you have to sell. Last thing to consider is the actual sales position that you'll have. There are 2 main models. One of them is a setter-closer model, where if you're the setter, you'll go out and set appointments for a closer to come back at a later time and close that appointment. There definitely are some pros and cons. That's the position that I had last year, and it really worked out well. With that being said though, the closer that was coming to my appointments, he has been doing this for 10 years now. So he was an absolute beast at selling, which I really was able to benefit off of that. I was really good on the doors, so it worked out really well. One of the downsides to that, though, if you are the setter, is that usually the closer will have multiple setters and their schedule can become pretty full at times, and there's no guarantee that your appointments are going to be their top priority. They care about making their own commission, and if you go out and set 5 appointments and they're only able to make it to 3, then you essentially set 2 of those in vain, and you essentially did some work that you aren't going to be benefiting from because somebody else is looking at their bottom line. On the other side of that, if you are a closer, you can make a lot of money. You're essentially just getting appointments fed to you all day where you can go close them and earn really high commissions. The other type of model out there is just doing everything yourself, doing all the prospecting and closing on your own. That's the most common position, and that's the one I worked with at Sunrun. There definitely is a lot of benefits to that. It's definitely good if you just want to be on your own schedule. You don't want to have to worry about anyone else. You don't want to have to depend on anyone else. Okay, as far as the best company to work for, that's a really tough question because it seems like there's new solar companies popping up just about every single day. And the ones that have been around for a while now, they're changing as well. So what was the best opportunity yesterday may not be the best opportunity today. What a lot of people don't know is that most of the solar companies that we hear about, they aren't actually solar companies. They're marketing companies. They don't make the solar panels or do the installs most of the time. And depending on where you are in the country, you could have a completely different experience with the same company, depending on what installers they're using or who's even running that sales office. Some of the most well-known companies are Momentum Solar, Legacy, Ion, Sunrun, and Vivint Smart Home. I personally worked for Sunrun and Vivint, and one of the really nice things about Vivint, although they don't have the best reputation, is that we actually had access to their security alarm clientele list. So we could go stop by those homes, check up on the current customers, see how their alarm systems were doing, and then upsell them on solar, which is really nice. And they also had a program at the time to where if somebody got a solar system installed, we could actually throw in the security system for free. As far as finding the best job in your actual area, what you need to do is go online to a job board like Indeed and just apply at every single solar company around and do your best to interview with all of them. Ask them a lot of the questions that I went over earlier, such as their average install time, and the commission structure, the different positions that they're hiring for, any kind of upward mobility you can have within the company. If you want to be a closer, be sure to set up some kind of a plan to where you can be training as a setter to become a closer. That way they don't just try to keep you as a setter. That's exactly what I did whenever I went and got into the solar industry. I applied at every solar company here in Austin, and I had several interviews, which really helped me decide which company I wanted to work with. For example, one of them was going to have me running a territory from Waco down to San Antonio, which I really wasn't wanting to drive that much. And another company stood me up on the interview. Obviously, I'm not going to work with them. And whenever I interviewed with Vivint Smart Home, the guy who's trying to recruit me, he's already been doing this for 10 years. And he had tens of millions of dollars of solar sales at that point. And I really saw an opportunity where I could learn a lot from him really quickly. So that's the main reason why I ended up going with Vivint Smart Home initially. And like I mentioned earlier, the first couple of months were absolutely amazing. However, things quickly went downhill. At the time, they were transitioning to a different solar panel supplier and a different install team, which really created a lot of headaches. At some point, I started noticing that the systems weren't getting installed anymore, meaning I wasn't getting paid. And I can understand having a transition like that in a company and there could be a delay. But the real problem was that they couldn't ever explain it. They couldn't ever tell me when things would get better. They couldn't ever give me a timeline on anything. They couldn't tell me when the panels would start getting installed again. At the time, all they cared about were getting more contracts signed. That way our names could be up on the leaderboard, which is cool and everything. I do like seeing my name at the top of the leaderboard, but at the end of the day, I'm out here to make money, not just see my name up on the leaderboard. So that was my experience. I'm really interested to hear what y'all think about the companies out there, which ones y'all think are the best. If you have any questions, drop in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them, and I'll see y'all next time.